Hey Epic peoples, Epic here. Can you believe it? It's already been 2 months since I started working on this game. Time flies and I'm really proud of the progress I've made so far. Alright, let's talk about the fun topic of UI. Last time I mentioned I started working on the battle UI, but wow, I had no idea what I was getting into. This shit is tough. While it's not as frustrating as coding for me anyway, I've learned that UI design is definitely not my favorite thing in the world. I like to think of myself as a creative person, but UI needs to be both visually appealing and functional, which is way harder than I expected. Shoutouts to all the UI designers out there. Seriously, you have my respect. I thought I could whip up some simple art, toss it onto the screen, and call it a day, but I was sorely mistaken. My first step was opening Photoshop to make a mock-up of what I had in mind. It wasn't anything fancy, but I thought this could work. So I jumped into the deep end and started creating the assets I needed. One challenge I ran into was color. I wanted a design with multiple color options, but instead of making separate assets for each color, I relied on something I learned from my Unity days. If the base color is white, you can easily adjust it in-game. Thankfully, that still holds true in Unreal. But let me tell you, Unreal's UI system, complete and absolute chaos for a newbie like me. There are so many ways to approach it and everything felt foreign. Luckily, the plugin I'm using gave me a foundation to build on, but even that was confusing at first. Tutorials warned me to avoid overusing canvas panels due to potential performance issues, so I experimented with alternatives. Let's just say, nothing worked the way that I wanted, and it drove me up the wall. Eventually, I managed to finish one skill button. Next, I tackled the UI group that displays all available skills. I tried using a vertical box, but it kept messing things up. Wrong shapes, oversized fonts, and parts randomly disconnecting. After some trial and error, I found success with a grid panel. I adjusted some padding, and while it's not perfect, it works well enough. Once I added the group to my HUD for combat mode, I hit another snag. The asset size is way bigger than I expected. Somehow I managed to position it correctly, and since it works, I'm not touching it again. Next up was adding a hover animation for the buttons. I envisioned a rotating gradient effect around each button. Sounds cool, right? Execution though? A nightmare. My first idea was to use a gradient texture clip to the button area, but Unreal's clipping settings were nothing like I expected.
Why are you the way that you are? Honestly, every time I try to do something fun or exciting, you make it not that way.
After giving up on that, I switched to animating in Premiere Pro, exported the sequence as PNGs, and imported them into Unreal. Using those frames, I created a texture array and built a moving material for the button. From there, I adapted the plugin code to fit my needs, and the buttons now display properly with animations and color coding for each skill type. Hover over a button and the gradient effect plays perfectly. These past few days have been a wild ride learning Unreal's UI system. There's still way more to do, like adding animations for selecting a skill or ending a turn, and displaying skill names and descriptions. But at least I have a solid foundation to build on. Unfortunately, there probably won't be a devlog next week since I'll be spending time with family for Thanksgiving. Until next time, stay epic.
Sharp like an edge of a samurai sword, the mental blade cut through flesh and bone. Though my mind's at peace, the world out of order, missing in the heat, life gets colder. Oh yes, I have to find my path, no less walk